Be strong.
Rejected Omega took in 3 homeless
I will see
pups.
you again.
25 years later, they saved her from death row. It chose leaders, blessed bonds, and marked every wolf with meaning. Alphas were born under bright moons, betas under steady ones, and omegas when the moon was weak, broken, or fading. She was born on a night of thin clouds and cold wind. The elders whispered even before she could walk, "This one has no scent. She carries no strength." The moon did not claim her. Her name was Alara, but no one used it kindly. Alara grew up knowing her place, behind others, beneath others, always silent. She worked harder than anyone, yet was praised less. She lowered her eyes when alphas passed. She ate last. She slept near the doors. Still, she hoped. Hope was a dangerous thing for an omega, but she held onto it anyway. She believed that if she stayed gentle, if she stayed useful, if she stayed loyal, the pack would one day accept her. She was wrong. The winter she turned 20, the frost moon rose red in the sky. That night the pack gathered in the stone circle. Fires burned high. The alpha stood tall, his shadow stretching like a blade across the ground. Alara stood at the edge, heart shaking. The alpha did not look at her with anger. Worse, he looked at her with nothing. "Alara," he said, "step forward." She did. The elder spoke words older than memory. Words of belonging, words of blood and moonlight. Then came the silence. The moon did not respond. No mark appeared on her skin. No warmth filled her chest. No bond formed. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The alpha turned away. "She is unclaimed," he said. "An omega without a moon. She weakens the pack." Alara's knees trembled, but she did not fall. "By law," the elder said softly, "she must leave before dawn." No one defended her, not one voice. At sunrise, Alara walked beyond the frostwood border with nothing but a worn cloak and a small bag of grain. She did not cry. Tears were useless things. Behind her, the pack gates closed. The forest swallowed her. Exile was quiet at first. The woods beyond Frostwood were old and strange. Trees bent in ways that felt wrong. The air carried whispers, though no mouths could be seen. Many believed cursed spirits lived there. Alara believed worse things lived inside people. She built a small shelter near a broken stone shrine half buried in moss. No one remembered which god it belonged to. No one cared. Alara survived by gathering roots, catching rainwater, and talking to herself when the nights grew too long. She spoke to the moon even though it had never answered. "I am still here," she would say. Some nights she felt watched but not hunted, as if the forest itself was curious. Years passed. Her hair silvered early. Her hands grew rough. Still her heart stayed soft, though the world had given her no reason for it. Then one night everything changed. A storm tore through the forest. Wind screamed. Branches cracked. Alara ran from her shelter, afraid the roof would collapse. That was when she heard it. A sound small enough to be missed. A cry thin and broken. She followed it through the rain to the old shrine. Beneath the fallen stones, 3 shapes huddled together. Wolf pups, too young to hunt, too weak to survive alone. Their fur was dirty, their ribs showing. One limped. One shivered without sound. The smallest stared at her with eyes too bright for a normal pup, silver, glowing faintly in the dark. Alara's breath caught. Pups were never abandoned unless something was terribly wrong. She knelt slowly, speaking in a calm voice. "It's all right," she whispered. "I won't hurt you." The pups did not run. That scared her more than if they had. She looked around, sensing danger. No pack scent, no guardian, only the storm and the silent trees. Someone had left them here to die. Alara took off her cloak and wrapped it around them. They pressed together instinctively, their small bodies seeking warmth. She should have walked away. An omega alone could barely survive. Taking in 3 pups would mean hunger, danger, death. But Alara had been abandoned once. She would not abandon them. She carried them back to her shelter, one by one. That night she shared her grain, her water, her warmth. The smallest pup rested against her heart. For the first time in years, Alara felt needed. Raising the pups was harder than exile. They grew quickly, too quickly. Their strength came early. Their eyes stayed silver. At night, strange dreams filled the air. Alara would wake to hear whispers not her own carried on the wind. Sometimes the moonlight around the shelter would darken as if shadows bent toward the pups. She did not understand it, but she loved them. She named them Kale, Ruin, and Ash. Kale was quiet and watchful. Ruin was fierce, always standing between Alara and danger. Ash was gentle, often staying close to her side. Alara taught them kindness in a world that had shown her none. She taught them to bow their heads to the old trees, to share food, to protect the weak. "You are not monsters," she told them when their powers frightened her. "You choose who you become." One night when the pups were nearly grown, they gathered around the fire. The moon hung low, heavy and strange. Alara sang. It was an old Omega song forbidden long ago, a vow song, a promise of survival. She did not know the words still held power. As her voice rose, the fire burned blue. The earth trembled slightly. The pups' silver eyes glowed brighter than ever before. Far away, beyond the forest, the moon court stirred. Ancient magic, thought dead, awakened. The moon cracked just a little. Alara felt a sudden pain in her chest, sharp and deep, like something had bound itself to her soul. She gasped. The pups howled, not in fear but in answer. Above them, unseen by mortal eyes, fate began to move. Time does not pass gently in cursed lands. It moves like a blade. Years flowed through the forest, carving the pups into something far greater and far more dangerous than Alara ever expected. Kale, Ruin, and Ash did not grow like normal wolves. By their 10th winter, they stood taller than most grown alphas. By their 15th, the forest itself seemed to step aside when they walked. Animals went silent at their approach. Shadows bent toward them, not away. Alara noticed everything. She noticed how Kale's eyes could calm a raging beast with a single look. How Ruin's presence made even ancient trees groan, roots tightening as if bracing for war. How Ash carried quiet power, healing wounded creatures with nothing but his touch. She also noticed the fear in herself. At night, when the wolves slept, Alara sat by the dying fire and wondered what she had truly saved all those years ago, or what she had awakened. Word of them spread. Travelers whispered of 3 silver-eyed wolves guarding the borderlands. Some said they were demons. Others claimed they were fallen princes cursed by the moon. A few believed they were gods in wolf form. None spoke of the Omega who raised them. Kings sent scouts. Queens sent spies. None returned. The forest became a boundary no army dared cross. Still, Alara stayed. She grew older, slower, her steps softer. The wolves grew sharper, stronger, more distant from the small shelter that had once held them all. Kale often stood on high cliffs, watching the horizon. "The world is changing," he said one evening. Ruin sharpened his claws against stone. "It always does." Ash looked at Alara. "And it will come for us." Alara smiled gently, though her heart was heavy. "Then meet it with wisdom, not rage." Ruin said nothing, but his eyes burned. The first battle came without warning. A war pack from the southern plains crossed into the forest, drawn by rumor and hunger for power. Their alpha believed the stories were lies. He was wrong. Kale faced them first, calm and unmoving. He offered peace. They laughed. Ruin moved next. The earth shook beneath his step. Trees cracked. The air darkened. The war pack fled, but not before the alpha fell to his knees, trembling, his pride broken. That day the name Shadowfang Lords was born. By the next winter, the 3 wolves ruled the borderlands, not by crown but by fear and respect. They built no palace, they demanded no taxes, yet all who passed knew who held power. Alara watched from the edge of their growing legend. She was proud, she was afraid, and she felt herself fading. The summons came on a moonless night. A silver raven landed near the shrine, its eyes glowing with court magic. It spoke with a voice not its own. "By order of the Moon Throne," it said, The Shadowfang lords are commanded to appear before the High Court. Ruin snarled. We owe them nothing. Kale was quiet. Ash looked at Alara. This is fate. Alara felt cold spread through her chest. The Moon Court does not summon without reason. Far away, beyond the forest, a queen lay dead, her body drained by forbidden magic that smelled of shadow and silver. The court needed someone to blame. They did not take Alara with them. She will be safer here, Kale said gently. Alara wanted to argue, but she saw the truth in his eyes. The world beyond the forest was cruel to Omegas, especially unclaimed ones. She watched the three wolves leave at dawn. Something in her chest cracked. The Moon Court was nothing like the forest. It rose from white stone and silver light, cold and sharp. Every breath there felt measured. Every glance carried judgment. The Shadowfang lords entered as rulers, not guests. The court gasped. Never had three such beings stood together, power humming between them like a living thing. The High Elder stepped forward, his voice trembling. You are accused of harboring forbidden magic. Kale's gaze did not waver. Magic is not a crime. Regicide is, the Elder snapped. Silence fell. From the shadows, guards dragged forward a figure, an Omega, old, thin, shackled. Her silver hair was dull with dirt. Her hands shook, but her back stayed straight. Alara. Ash's breath left him. Ruin's control shattered. Kale felt the world tilt. The Elder spoke coldly. This Omega is charged with the Queen's death. She lived beyond the law. She practiced ancient rites. She raised monsters. Alara lifted her eyes. She did not beg. She only searched the crowd until her gaze met three silver ones filled with horror and recognition. My wolves, she whispered. The court froze. Ruin stepped forward, power flaring. Unchain her. Guards moved. Kale raised a hand. Wait, he said, voice steady but breaking. This is a trap, the Elder smiled thinly. Then answer us, Shadowfang lords. Do you deny knowing this Omega? Kale looked at Alara, at the woman who had fed him when he was starving, who had sung to him when the world was silent, who had taught him mercy. No, he said. We do not deny her, the court erupted. Ash fell to his knees beside Alara, ignoring the guards. You should not be here, she smiled weakly. Neither should you, the Elder raised his staff. By dawn, the Omega will face judgment, and if found guilty, she will die. The moon above the court darkened. Something ancient stirred. Far beyond stone and law, the forest howled. The Moon Court did not sleep that night. Silver torches burned along the high walls. Priests whispered to the moon. Guards tightened their grip on spears and chains. Fear moved through the palace like a cold wind. At the center of it all sat Alara. She was placed inside a narrow stone chamber beneath the court. No window, no fire, only moonlight slipping through iron bars above her head. She closed her eyes and breathed slowly. So this is how it ends, she thought. She did not fear death. She feared regret. She wondered if she should have walked away from the pups that night, if loving them had truly doomed them all, if the moon had always planned this ending. Footsteps echoed. Ash appeared at the bars, his face pale, his silver eyes filled with pain. I tried to reach you sooner, he said softly. Alara smiled, tired but warm. You came, that is enough. They plan to judge you at dawn, Ash said. They say you used forbidden magic. They say you shaped us into weapons. Alara shook her head. I only loved you. Ash pressed his hand to the bars. Then the world is wrong. Above them, in the high chamber of the court, Kale and Ruin stood before the elders. The High Elder's voice cut through the silence. The Omega's death will restore balance. The moon demands payment. Ruin's eyes burned. Then the moon is cruel. Guards shifted nervously. Kale stepped forward, calm but deadly. You accuse her of killing the queen. Where is your proof? The Elder lifted a crystal bowl. Inside it shimmered dark silver light. This magic was found in the queen's chamber. It matches the shadow power of the borderlands. Kale recognized it at once. It was their power. Ruin growled low. That magic answers to us. Murmurs exploded through the court. The elder smiled. Then perhaps the Omega is only guilty of creating you. Kale felt something snap inside him. If she dies, he said quietly, you will lose more than a scapegoat. The elder raised a brow. Is that a threat? Kale met his gaze. It is a warning. As dawn approached, the moon above the court grew heavy and dark, its light cracked with faint lines like broken glass. The priests panicked. This is not natural, one whispered. The moon is unsettled. Deep in the chamber, Alara felt it too, a pull in her chest, strong and aching like a door long sealed, was slowly opening. Memories flooded her mind, not of this life, but of another. She saw herself standing beneath a full silver moon, crowned in light. She saw a throne carved from stone and roots. She saw Omegas kneeling, not in fear but in honor. She gasped. Her hands began to glow faintly. The chains around her wrists rattled. The judgment began at first light. Alara was brought into the open court, chains heavy, steps slow. The crowd watched in silence, not with hatred but with awe and fear. She looked smaller than the throne, yet the moonlight followed her. The High Elder spoke loudly. Alara of no pack, you are accused of regicide, forbidden rites, and corruption of the moon's law. Alara lifted her head. I did none of these. Then explain the magic, the elder demanded. Kale stepped forward. The magic is ours, the court gasped. Ruin's voice thundered. We killed the queen. Silence shattered the air. Alara turned, eyes wide. No, she whispered. You must not, Ruin met her gaze. We will not let you die for us. The elder's hands shook with triumph. Then you admit guilt. The Omega bound you to darkness. She shaped your power. Ash stepped between them. She sang to us, that is all. The elder slammed his staff down. Enough, the Omega will pay for birthing monsters. The moon above cracked further. A low sound echoed through the court, deep, ancient, and alive. Alara felt the truth rise like fire. She took a step forward. The chains fell away. Gasps filled the court as the metal turned to dust. I remember now, Alara said, her voice calm but carrying power. You erased us. The elders froze. I was not born unclaimed, she continued. I was stripped of my name. The moonlight gathered around her, brighter than ever before. I am of the first line, she said. Before alphas ruled by force, before omegas were cast aside, we were keepers of balance. The High Elder staggered back. That bloodline was ended. Alara shook her head. No. It was hidden. The moon split with a sound like thunder. Light poured down. The crowd fell to their knees, not in fear but in instinct. Kale felt tears burn his eyes. She is not weak, he whispered. She never was, but power always demands a price. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward, the queen's shadow, keeper of secrets and poison. You speak of balance, the shadow said softly. Then pay its cost. She raised a blade made of moonstone, not at Alara, at Ash. Alara screamed. Kale moved too late. The blade struck Ash's chest, not to kill, but to bind. Dark chains of magic wrapped around him, feeding on his life force. The balance requires sacrifice, the shadow said. Choose first Omega, the sun or the realm. Ash smiled weakly at Alara. You taught us to choose others. Ruin roared, power shaking the court. Kale reached for Alara, but she was already moving. Tears streamed down her face as she lifted her hands. I choose neither, she said. The moon answered. The light blazed blinding white. And the world held its breath. The court trembled under the moon's light. Ash lay bound in chains of silver magic, his silver eyes dimming. Ruin's claws tore at stone in rage. Kale's teeth were bared, but his hands shook. He could not move past the glowing circle of light that held them all. Alara stepped forward. Her hands burned with power she barely understood. The chains around her wrists had dissolved, yet the weight of responsibility pressed heavier than ever. This ends now, she whispered, voice steady but carrying the weight of centuries. I will not watch them suffer for a crime they did not commit. The elders recoiled, unable to speak. The Shadow Queen stepped back, realizing this Omega was more than she had imagined. Alara raised her hands higher. Silver light poured from her fingertips, spilling over the court, over the walls, over the sky itself. The moon seemed to bow, listening. Stars flickered and pulsed, as if holding their breath. Ash's chest glowed faintly, responding to the power of the Omega who had raised him. Ruin and Kale felt it too, the pull of magic that had lived in their blood all along. The court realized too late this was not just Alara's power. It was hers and theirs, bound together in love, loyalty, and survival. "Release him," Kale roared, but the magic obeyed only Alara. She knelt beside Ash, placing her hands over his heart. Her voice, soft but commanding, carried words from long ago, words taught to her by the moon itself, in dreams she had once thought were meaningless. "By the bond of blood, by the vow of love, by the mercy you taught me, rise," she whispered. Ash's eyes brightened. The chains shattered like glass. He fell into her arms, breathing deep and free. Relief washed through him, mingling with fear and wonder. Ruin stood frozen. His rage had no outlet except to collapse into stunned awe. You saved him." Alara looked at him. "We save each other, always." Kale stepped forward. "The court must answer for this injustice." The elders flinched under his gaze. Even the High Elder knew words would not hold when the moon itself had chosen a champion. Outside, the sky shifted. Clouds parted, revealing a new moon, brighter and fuller than any in living memory. It bathed the court in silver light, illuminating truths hidden for decades. The Shadow Queen knelt, understanding the error of her ways. "Balance is not punishment," she said softly. "It is guidance." Alara raised her head. Her hair shimmered like the first frost of winter. "Then guide, not destroy." The court watched in silence as the Omega, the one they had mocked, feared, and condemned, stood not broken but reborn. Her power was no longer dangerous. It was just. Her three wolves bowed, not in fear but in devotion. Not because she had raised them, but because she had chosen mercy over vengeance, compassion over cruelty. The days that followed were quiet, yet monumental. The moon court could not undo the past. Many feared Alara's power, many whispered of it. Yet none dared challenge her openly. She had not taken crowns, armies, or lands. She had taken respect. She had taken justice. And most importantly, she had saved those she loved. Kale, Ruin, and Ash remained by her side, guardians, brothers, and children of her heart. Together, they restored balance, not through fear, but through protection and guidance. The borders of the forest, once forbidden, now became a sanctuary. The weak found shelter. The lost found hope, and the legends of the Omega and the three silver-eyed wolves spread far and wide. Alara would not forget the night she was cast out, nor would she forget the pups she saved. She had given them life. They had given her a world worth living in. Yet power has a rhythm, life has a cost. The moon above remained bright, yet a shadow lingered at its edge, a reminder the world is never completely still. The past leaves marks, futures must always be guarded. Alara stood at the cliff overlooking the forest. Kale, Ruin, and Ash at her side. She breathed in the wind, carrying scents of snow, pine, and freedom. The three wolves nuzzled her hands and shoulders. "You kept your promise," Kale said softly. "You always chose us." "And you kept yours," she replied. "All of you." Ruin tilted his head. "What now?" Alara's silver eyes reflected the light of the new moon. "Now we live. Now we protect. Now we make a world where no Omega is ever rejected again." Ash barked softly, a sound of agreement and joy. Kale and Ruin growled, low and proud. Together they were stronger than any court, any magic, any curse. The forest around them shifted, alive with magic. Trees bent toward them in respect. Streams glittered brighter. Animals came from every shadow unafraid. Life itself seemed to rise, responding to the Omega who had chosen love over death, mercy over punishment, family over fear. Far away, in the distant lands once ruled by cruel alphas and fearsome kings, whispers carried through villages and towns. The story of the Omega who raised three silver-eyed wolves, and who survived exile, prophecy, and court judgment, began to grow into legend. And legends, as everyone knows, never die. End of Part 4, Epilogue of Hope. Years passed and Alara remained in the forest, the first Omega truly recognized. Kale, Ruin, and Ash grew to become not just rulers of their lands, but protectors of a new era, a time of balance, peace, and quiet power. Alara watched them often, proud yet humble. She had once been rejected, cast out, and forgotten. Now she was remembered, respected, and loved. And in that love she found a peace no crown could grant, no magic could force, and no moon could deny. And though the shadow at the edge of the moon remained, she knew this truth.